While my mother was fighting for her life in the ICU, my husband was nowhere to be found. He and his family didn't want to visit her. Instead, he sent me a text message. "Send me $15,000 for my sister's wedding and my mother's vacation." He thought I would cry. I smiled, sent him $50, and then I froze all his assets. Before the story begins, please write in the comments section which state or city you are tuning in from. Friends, don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can keep growing and bringing you even more interesting stories. The hospital hallway felt like time had frozen solid. The hands of the wall clock moved so sluggishly, their ticking barely audible over the hum of the floor buffer that had just passed by. Kezia sat alone on the cold metal waiting chair. Right outside the frosted glass door marked ICU. The sharp smell of antiseptic pierced her nose, mixing with the aroma of stale coffee from the paper cup beside her. She had been there for 12 hours. The gray silk bonnet she was wearing was a bit wrinkled, just as crumpled as her thoughts. Her puffy eyes itched and burned, remnants of the tears dried inside that room. Her mother, Mama Effie, was fighting against a massive heart attack that had struck suddenly that afternoon. Kezia closed her eyes for a moment, trying to chase away the image of her pale mother, lying there with tubes running in and out of her body. The image kept returning. She remembered the panic of that afternoon when she found her mother sitting on the kitchen floor, clutching her chest, her breath ragged. It was just the two of them in that house, Kezia's childhood home. She screamed for an ambulance. Her hands shook violently as she dialed 911. She rode with her mother to the hospital alone. Alone, she filled out the mountain of admission forms, and alone, she listened to the doctor's explanation about her mother's critical condition. She took a deep breath, swallowing the bitterness in her throat. She wasn't really alone. She had a husband. She had in-laws. But where were they? The phone she held felt cold. Since her mother was admitted to the ICU, Kezia had tried calling Tremaine, her husband, several times. The first time, Tremaine answered with a slightly annoyed tone. "What's up, Kez? I'm super busy. I'm checking out the venue with Serafina for the decor." Kezia tried to explain with a trembling voice. "Tremaine, it's Mama Effie. She had a heart attack. She's in the ICU right now." A heavy sigh was heard on the other end. "Yeah, and? You handle it first. I really can't leave Serafina's wedding prep. This is important. You know how Ms. Rowena is." Important. Kezia repeated the word in her heart. So her mother's life wasn't important. Her heart sank. "But Tremaine, Mama's condition is critical. I need you here." Tremaine sounded exasperated. "Stop exaggerating. Your mother will recover, surely. The hospital is good, right? Look, I gotta go. I'll call you later." The call cut off just like that. Kezia didn't give up. She called again an hour later. No answer. She sent a text explaining the gravity of the situation. The message was read, but left unanswered. Desperate, Kezia tried calling Ms. Rowena, her mother-in-law. She hoped that as a mother herself, Ms. Rowena would understand and maybe tell Tremaine to come. The response was even more hurtful. "Kezia," her voice shrill with disgust, "you are being so dramatic. We are stressed out here dealing with an incompetent wedding planner, and you call with this news? Don't make things worse, will you? Tremaine is helping Serafina. His sister is getting married. As a sister-in-law, you should be supportive. Don't be so spoiled. Handle your mother yourself." Click. The call was disconnected. Kezia stared at the dark screen of her phone. Spoiled. They called her spoiled for expecting her husband to be by her side when her mother was dying. She was the wife who had always held the family down. Her salary as a chief financial officer at a top-tier firm was far higher than Tremaine's. The house they lived in was one Kezia had bought with her own money. The luxury SUV that Tremaine and Ms. Rowena drove around town? Kezia paid the notes. Every month, she transferred thousands of dollars to Ms. Rowena's account for unexpected expenses and maintenance. Even though her mother-in-law was perfectly healthy, Kezia was also bankrolling the entirety of Serafina's upcoming lavish wedding. All this time, Kezia had stayed silent. She just wanted to be a good wife, a dutiful daughter-in-law. She thought her financial sacrifices would be rewarded with acceptance and affection. She was dead wrong. The night deepened. The hallway grew quieter. It was just her and a few other families of patients sleeping in uncomfortable positions down the hall. Keziah felt cold, not from the air conditioning, but from a loneliness that bit down to her bones. She felt stupid. Years of hard work, saving money only for her husband's ungrateful family to squander it. And now, when she was most vulnerable, they abandoned her. The pain in her chest was as intense as the pain her mother might be feeling. She was a devout woman who had always tried to be patient. She held back her anger, trying to pray. She tried to forgive, but her heart was too wounded. She leaned her head against the cold wall. Overwhelming fatigue washed over her. Physical tiredness, mental exhaustion. She looked at the ICU door again, praying silently for her mother to be strong. Suddenly, her phone vibrated in her hand. It wasn't a call. Her heart skipped a beat, hoping it was a text from Tremaine saying he was on his way. Keziah lifted her phone. The screen lit up, showing a notification. It was an alert from her banking app. The message read, "Automatic transfer successful. $2,000 to account name Miss Rowena." It was the fixed monthly allowance she usually sent. The money went out exactly on the first of the month, automatically, regardless of the situation. Keziah stared at the numbers, money she could have used to boost her mother's treatment costs if needed. Money that had just landed in the account of a woman who, hours earlier, had told her, "Don't be spoiled." Something inside Keziah snapped. Her patience, which until now had been like a bottomless well, had hit rock bottom. She didn't cry anymore. Her eyes, which had burned before, now felt cold. She swiped away the notification and stared blankly at the ICU door. The night was still long, but Keziah knew something had ended forever. 2 days passed in a fog. Keziah barely left the hospital. She only went home briefly to shower and change clothes, then returned to her mother's side. She slept in the waiting chair. She woke up every time she heard a nurse's footsteps. Mama Effie's condition remained the same, stable but critical. She still hadn't regained consciousness. The doctors said the next 2 days would be crucial. Keziah spent her time reading psalms and praying by her mother's bedside, hoping her voice could penetrate the fog of the coma wrapping her mother. During those 2 days, her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Dozens of missed calls from Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina. Hundreds of messages piled up unread. Keziah knew they must be furious because the supplementary transfer hadn't gone through, or maybe Tremaine was mad because Keziah had ignored him. Keziah didn't care. She turned the ringer off, leaving only the vibration. Her focus was singular, her mother's recovery. That morning, the third day, after wiping her mother's body down with warm water, Keziah sat for a moment in the hospital cafeteria. She forced herself to swallow a bagel and a cup of hot tea. Her body needed energy. She couldn't afford to get sick. That was when her phone vibrated again on the table, this time a long text from Tremaine. Keziah's heart jumped. There was a tiny, foolish hope in her heart that Tremaine had finally come to his senses. Maybe it was an apology message. Maybe he would ask about Mama's condition. With hands slightly trembling from lack of sleep, Keziah opened the message. It wasn't an apology, nor a question about her mother. It was a list of orders. "Keziah, where are you? Why aren't you answering the phone or replying to texts? You're ignoring my mother on purpose, aren't you? Ms. Rowena says you're probably resentful about the issue the other day. Whatever. Don't be childish. Right now, I don't care what you say. My mother says transfer $15,000 to her account quickly. It has to be today for the deposit on Serafina's new reception hall. The previous one got canceled by the venue owner. The rest is for my mother to go on vacation to Turks and Caicos so she doesn't get stressed organizing the wedding. She needs peace of mind." The message continued. "Don't be stingy. That money is also for our future. Serafina's wedding is at stake, the family honor. If it gets canceled, where are we going to show our faces? And my mother needs to relax, poor thing. So transfer the $15,000 now. It has to be there by tomorrow morning. I'm waiting." Keziah read the message once, twice, 3 times. Her tired brain tried to assimilate the words. Stress, peace of mind, family honor, Vacation in Turks and Caicos, $15,000. Upstairs, in the same building, a few floors above this cafeteria, her mother was fighting between life and death, and neither her husband nor her husband's family had asked about it even once. They only cared about the party, the money, and the vacation. Suddenly, Keziah felt something strange. A dry, raspy laugh escaped her lips. At first soft, then louder. Some customers in the cafeteria turned to look at her strangely. A woman in a head wrap laughing alone in a hospital cafeteria. Keziah didn't care. She laughed until tears came out. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage that had reached their peak. Who did they think she was? An ATM with no feelings? A cash cow that could be milked at any moment? They thought she would obey, that she would transfer that amount of money while weeping, too busy with her mother to fight back. Keziah's laughter stopped abruptly. Her pale face had now hardened. Her gaze was cold and piercing. Everything became crystal clear. The fog in her head vanished, replaced by a burning determination. For years she had been patient because she thought it was her duty. Now she realized it was stupidity. She picked up her phone. The cracked screen corners seemed to reflect her marriage. She remembered the $15,000. It was the emergency fund she kept in her personal investment account, money she had saved over years for a dire situation. And this, Keziah thought, was an emergency to save herself. With steady fingers that no longer trembled, Keziah opened her banking app. She didn't open her investment account. She opened her main checking account, where the balance was low because she had just used it for the deposit on her mother's hospital expenses. She pressed the transfer menu, entered Tremaine's account number, a number she knew by heart. Then she typed the amount, not $15,000. She typed $50. Her finger paused for a moment over the send button. This was it. This was her line in the sand. After pressing this, there would be no going back. She would no longer be the obedient Keziah. She would no longer be the stupid Keziah. She pressed the button hard. Transfer successful. Then she went to the messaging app, opened Tremaine's long message, scrolled to the reply section, and typed a short, clear, and concise response. "This is for you to buy some minutes for your phone. Don't call me again." She hit send. 2 blue checks. Red. Immediately her phone rang violently. Tremaine's name appeared on the screen. Keziah looked at the call, let it ring until it stopped on its own, and rang again. Her mother-in-law's name appeared. She left it. Then Serafina. She left it. Keziah pressed the silence button on the side of her phone. Then she searched for her lawyer's contact, the family lawyer who had handled her father's estate. She smiled, a cold, calculating smile. A grand plan began to take shape in her mind, a plan to teach them a lesson. The explosion didn't take long. Less than 30 seconds after the message, "This is for you to buy some minutes," was sent. Keziah's phone screen lit up like a Christmas tree in the middle of a storm. Incoming call from Tremaine. Keziah looked at her husband's smiling photo on the screen, a smile that now looked fake and repulsive. She let the call ring, ring, and ring until it finally died out and turned into a missed call notification. A minute later, a text came in, this time full of capital letters. "Are you speaking in tongues? Are you insulting me?" Keziah didn't reply. She was walking back to the ICU waiting room. Her steps were firm. Next message. "Quick, transfer the $15K now. I'm not joking, Keziah. My mother is going to be very angry." Then another call, this time from her mother-in-law. Keziah let it ring, followed by a call from Serafina. She ignored that too. Her phone vibrated endlessly in her hand. The vibration felt like a buzz of distant rage, but strangely, it didn't scare her. It made her feel stronger. Voicemails started rolling in. Keziah didn't need to listen to them to know their content. She could imagine Ms. Rowena's shrill voice cursing her, calling her a disloyal wife, ungrateful, stingy, and all the names she previously only dared to say behind her back. She imagined Serafina whining, probably blaming her if her dream wedding failed, and Tremaine, her husband, probably panicking, cornered between the demands of his mother and sister, and now realizing his cash source was rebelling. Keziah sat back down on the cold metal chair. She opened her photo gallery, looking at a picture of her mother smiling while they had lunch together a month ago. A sincere smile that contrasted so sharply with the sly smiles of her husband's family. All this time, Keziah had worked hard, using her faith as a reminder to always be patient and do good. She thought her patience was a virtue, but she had forgotten something. One is also taught not to allow oneself to be oppressed. She had forgotten that kindness misused was stupidity. Her phone vibrated again. New message from Tremaine. Okay, you're mad about your mom, right? I'm sorry. Now send the money and then I'll come visit your mother. I promise. Promise? A word that sounded so cheap. Keziah pressed the silence button on the side of her phone again. Not just the ringtone. She turned off the vibration too. She needed quiet to take the next step. She could no longer be bothered by the whining of these parasites. She searched for a name in her contacts, a name she hadn't called in a long time, but always kept for emergencies. Attorney Sterling. Mr. Sterling was an old friend of her late father, the lawyer who helped her manage all the inheritance and assets her father left before she married Tremaine. Keziah took her phone to a quieter corner of the hallway, near a window overlooking the hospital garden. She took a deep breath, then pressed the call button. Hello, good morning. Sterling speaking. A deep voice greeted on the other end. Good morning, Attorney Sterling. It's Keziah, she said. Her voice sounded calm, flat, and cold. Even she was surprised at how calm she was. Keziah, how are you, child? It's rare for you to call so early. I hope it's good news. There was a paternal tone in Mr. Sterling's voice. My news is in the process of becoming good, sir, but my mother is in the ICU, Keziah said frankly. I'm sorry, I don't have much time for small talk. I need your legal help immediately. Mr. Sterling's tone turned serious instantly. Of course, Keziah. Tell me what you need. Anything. I want you to freeze all joint accounts in my name and my husband Tremaine's. Done, said Sterling without pause. Joint accounts. Fine, that can be arranged. Most of the assets are in your name, right? Not most, sir. All. Tremaine never put a dime in there. I understand, said Mr. Sterling. Second, Keziah continued, her eyes fixed on the garden outside, I want you to stop all automatic or standing transfer instructions from all my personal accounts, especially to accounts in Tremaine's name, Ms. Rowena's name, and Seraphina's name, his sister. I want them stopped as of this very moment. Fine, that's easy. I'll process it. Keziah breathed. This is the most important part. Third, please verify the house Tremaine and I are living in now on Royal Oak Drive. It is 100% in my name, correct? Pure inheritance from my father, not marital property. A pause was heard. Maybe Mr. Sterling was checking data on his computer. Correct, Keziah. The deed is purely in the name of Keziah, daughter of John, obtained before the marriage. Your partner has no right to a single dollar from that house. Perfect, Keziah hissed. I want you to handle the sale immediately. Starting today, put up the listing. Contact the real estate agents. I want that house sold. This time, Mr. Sterling stayed silent for longer. Keziah, this is a very big step. Are you sure? I am sure, sir, Keziah interrupted. I am very sure. I have sheltered a family of parasites for too long in the house my father left me. It's time to clean up. Keziah couldn't see it, but in his elegant office, Mr. Sterling smiled slightly, a smile of satisfaction. He had known Keziah for a long time. He knew how good this girl was and had also suspected for a long time how she was being used by her husband's family. I have been waiting for this instruction for a long time, Ms. Keziah, Mr. Sterling said. His tone returned to professional, but with a hint of support. I suspected this day would come. Your father would be proud that you're finally taking a stand. Anything else? Keziah went blank for a moment. Anything else? Yes. The car my husband drives, and the car Ms. Rowena uses. Whose name is on my mother-in-law's car? Who pays the notes? Keziah smiled, a very cold smile. You're right. That's also in my name. The payments are deducted automatically from my account. Excellent. I will call the leasing company. With the suspension of automatic payment and a power of attorney from you, both cars can be repossessed by the repo men in 2 days. Do it, sir, Keziah said. Do it all. I'll send the power of attorney to your email to sign digitally. Within 5 minutes, said Mr. Sterling. Take care of your mother, Keziah. Let me handle this trash. The call cut off. Keziah felt her shoulders, tense for years, finally relax a little. She went back to the waiting room, looked at her phone. The screen was full of notifications, dozens of unread messages, dozens of missed calls. They must be confused now. But they didn't know anything yet. This was just the beginning. She remembered Tremaine's message, $15,000 for a vacation. Keziah laughed softly. Yes, she had $15,000 in her investment account, the emergency fund, and she had a much better plan for that money. The $15,000 was Keziah's anchor. It was the result of her hard work, drops of sweat, and countless overtime hours. She kept it in a separate investment account. She never touched it. She always told herself, it's for an emergency, for unforeseen hospital expenses, for a disaster. She never expected the disaster to come in the form of her own family's greed. And now Tremaine's brazen request felt like a slap that woke her up. This was an emergency to save her sanity, her dignity, and her future. After speaking with Mr. Sterling, Keziah felt her focus sharpen again. She no longer felt like a cornered victim. She was a chess player who had just moved her piece into an attack position. She sat back down next to her mother's bed. Mama Effie was still asleep under the influence of sedatives. Her breathing was regular, assisted by a machine. Grasping her mother's hand, warm but weak, Keziah felt she was gaining strength. She picked up her phone, not to check the barrage of insults from Tremaine's family, but to do a little research. She needed certainty. She opened her chat history with Serafina, Tremaine's sister. She scrolled up past dozens of photos of wedding dresses and examples of lavish decor Serafina had sent to ask for approval, or rather, budget approval. Finally, she found it. A PDF file with a proposal from a renowned wedding planner, Red Rose Events. There was also the contact number of the person in charge. Keziah took a deep breath and called that number. Good morning, Red Rose Events. Cheyenne speaking. A cheerful voice greeted. Good morning, Cheyenne. This is Keziah. I'm Serafina's sister-in-law, the one who has been handling the wedding payments so far. The cheerfulness in Cheyenne's voice dimmed a little, replaced by a professional and cautious tone. Ah, Ms. Keziah, finally you call. I've been trying to contact Serafina and Miss Rowena since yesterday, but they aren't answering. I'm so sorry, ma'am. This is very urgent. Urgent? Why? Keziah asked, feigning ignorance. You see, ma'am, the deposit for the venue and catering was due yesterday. The amount is $15,000. We gave them a deadline until today at 12 noon, but if the payment doesn't come through, unfortunately, the venue and catering for that date will be released to another client who is on the waiting list. This already affects our reputation with vendors. Exactly $15,000. The same number. They were in a panic, demanding the money because they were cornered by the deadline. I understand, Cheyenne, Keziah said in a calm voice. Thank you very much for the information. So, is the transfer coming, ma'am? I'll wait until 12, urged Cheyenne. I'll handle it, Keziah replied ambiguously. But please don't tell Serafina or Miss Rowena that I called. Let this be my business. Keziah hung up. So the $15,000 was the leech they were trying to stick on her to cover their debts. She could just leave it, let Serafina's wedding be canceled, the venue lost, and let them be embarrassed. But that was too easy. It would only give them momentary shame. She wanted to teach them a lesson they would never forget, a lesson about priorities. She remembered something. She opened her laptop that she always carried in her work bag. She opened an old folder. There was an email conversation with her mother. About a year ago, her mother had sent her a link to a website. Keziah, look at this, the Children's Hope Foundation, her mother had written in the email. They help with medical expenses for children with cancer from low-income families. How noble. If I ever have extra money, I would love to help them. Those children's prayers are surely answered. Her mother never had extra money, because every gain her mother should have received, every bit of affection money Keziah wanted to give her mother, was always diverted into the apparently bottomless pockets of Ms. Rowena and Tremaine. Keziah's eyes felt hot. Her mother, even in her simplicity, thought of others, while her mother-in-law, in her luxury, only thought of herself. Keziah opened the foundation's website. The donation page was clear. There were photos of small children with shaved heads, but with brave smiles. Keziah's heart was moved. This was it. This was the answer to her prayers. This was the best way to use the $15,000. She didn't hesitate for a second. She opened her banking app, accessed her investment account, and made a withdrawal from the emergency fund. The process was instant. Then she went back to the donation page. She entered the amount, $15,000. In the donor name column, she didn't write her name. She typed with steady fingers, "Donation in the name of the recovery of Mama Effie." She wanted every prayer raised from that foundation, from those children, to flow directly to her mother lying in the ICU. She clicked Confirm Transfer. Transaction successful. An email with the official transfer receipt entered her inbox immediately. Keziah took a screenshot of the receipt, a simple image containing the bank logo, the transfer amount, and the recipient's name. Children's Hope Foundation. This was her weapon. Not a bomb that explodes, but a scalpel that cut right into the heart of their arrogance. She opened the family group chat. She ignored the dozens of furious private messages. She went directly to Tremaine's family group, the group containing all of Tremaine's arrogant aunts, uncles, and cousins. The group where Ms. Rowena always bragged about how successful Tremaine was and how generous her daughter-in-law, Keziah, was. The same group where the plan for Seraphina's lavish wedding was discussed daily. Keziah took a breath. She didn't write a single word. No explanation, no curse back. She simply selected the screenshot of the $15,000 receipt, then pressed the send button. Message sent. One gray check. Then in seconds it turned into 2 blue checks. Red. Someone must be online. Maybe Ms. Rowena herself or Seraphina, who were panic waiting for news of Keziah's transfer, must have opened the message. Thinking it was the proof of payment for their wedding planner. Keziah could imagine their confusion. They asked for $15,000 for a party and a vacation. Instead, they got a receipt for $15,000 for charity. Keziah put her phone on the table face down. She turned off her mobile data. Enough for today. Enough. She went back to holding her mother's hand. "Mama," she whispered softly. "Keziah donated money in your name. Get well soon. The children are praying for you." She felt at peace, very at peace. She didn't know nor care that out there, in that group chat, a time bomb had just exploded silently. The next morning, the sun shone brightly, as if mocking the chaos that was about to erupt. In the elegant designer boutique downtown, Ms. Rowena and Seraphina were in very high spirits. They had already forgotten the annoyance of 2 days ago. The $50 message and Keziah's cynical response were considered a tantrum from a stressed wife. They were very sure that under pressure and the threat of family honor, Keziah would cave. The $15,000 must have arrived in Ms. Rowena's account that morning. "Look, Mama, this dress," Seraphina said, spinning in front of a grand mirror. She was wearing a shimmering off-shoulder gown that alone cost thousands of dollars. "Everyone is going to be jaw-dropped." "Of course, honey," replied Ms. Rowena, while sipping the sparkling water the boutique attendant had served her. She looked at her watch, 9:30 a.m. She had already planned her day. After paying the venue deposit, she would immediately transfer the remaining $2,000 to the travel agency for her luxury vacation in Turks and Caicos. She was impatient. "All right, Seraphina, Ms. Rowena," said the designer, smiling. "The dress fits perfectly, so we're closing on this one, right? According to the agreement, we need a 50% payment today to start the alteration process." "Sure, easy," said Ms. Rowena arrogantly. She pulled out her platinum credit card. Please process it. Elsewhere in his air-conditioned office, Tremaine sat at his desk. He wasn't focused on his computer screen at all. He was restless. He hadn't managed to contact Keziah in 2 days. Her phone wasn't active. Tremaine tried to calm himself. Keziah was just emotional, but Keziah had never been like this. However, his restlessness was overcome by his faith in his mother. His mother always said Keziah was crazy about him. There was no way Keziah would dare do anything. The money must have been transferred. He just needed to wait for news from his mother. Back at the boutique, the attendant returned with an expression of slight hesitation. I'm sorry, ma'am. The card was declined. Ms. Rowena's smile froze. Declined? Impossible. Try it again. Your machine must be faulty. The attendant tried again. Declined again, ma'am. Insufficient funds. Ms. Rowena's face turned red. Limit? This card has a limit of tens of thousands, and I know Keziah pays the bill always on time. Impossible. Give it here, she snapped. She tried another card, debit card. Insufficient funds, ma'am. A cold sweat began to appear on Ms. Rowena's forehead. Something was wrong. She rushed to call Tremaine. Tremaine, my cards have been declined. Check your mother's account right now. Did Keziah's money come in? Tremaine, hearing the panic in his mother's tone, also panicked. Wait, Mama. He rushed to open his mobile banking app. First, he checked his own account. He froze. His balance was only $34.50. Keziah should have transferred his monthly allowance of $1,000 yesterday. It hadn't come in. Then he tried to check his mother's account, which was also linked to his phone. He entered the PIN. The screen lit up. Balance, $10.30. The $15,000 wasn't there. The monthly $2,000 that usually entered on the 1st wasn't there either. The account was dry. Tremaine, what's going on? Yelled Ms. Rowena into the phone, causing several customers in the boutique to turn around. No, there's nothing, Mama, Tremaine replied. His voice trembled. Nothing came in at all. What? Shrieked Ms. Rowena. That girl, your wife, she actually stopped it? How dare she? In his office, Tremaine felt the air-conditioned room heat up. His heart pounded. This wasn't just anger, it was a disaster. He tried calling Keziah again. The number you have dialed is not active. He tried WhatsApp. One check. He was blocked. No, maybe she just has her mobile data off. But the result was the same. Keziah had vanished. In the boutique, the atmosphere turned humiliating. I'm sorry, Ms. Rowena, said the designer. Her voice was now cold and flat. If the payment cannot be completed today, we cannot continue. Serafina, still wearing the dress worth thousands, began to cry. Mama, what are we going to do? It's humiliating, Mama. It's going to get canceled. Shut up, snapped Ms. Rowena. She was hysterical. She had to get that money. She called Tremaine back. Call your wife. Drag her here. Tell her to transfer now or divorce her. The word divorce echoed in Tremaine's ears. He was in a panic. He couldn't divorce Keziah. Divorcing Keziah meant divorcing his money source. He had to fix this. Just at that moment, Serafina's phone rang loudly. On the screen appeared the name Cheyenne, Red Rose Events. Serafina's face went pale instantly. This must be about the $15,000 deposit for the venue. Hello, Cheyenne, she greeted with a trembling voice. Cheyenne's voice on the other end was no longer cheerful. Her voice was firm, professional, and uncompromising. Good afternoon, Serafina. It is 12:05 p.m., confirming that the payment of the $15,000 deposit has not been received. Yes, I'm sorry, Cheyenne. It's just that there's a little... Cheyenne interrupted her. It's not necessary, Serafina. I'm calling only to inform you. According to our agreement, since the payment deadline has expired, the venue reservation, catering, and all vendors under Serafina's name for that date are officially canceled. Canceled? Shrieked Serafina. Her eyes widened with horror. Correct. And one more thing, continued Cheyenne, her voice sounding like a judge's gavel. We just received a call from Ms. Kazaya's legal representative, Mr. Sterling. He has officially informed us that Ms. Kazaya withdraws all her financial backing for this event, so everything is clear. Serafina couldn't breathe. Cheyenne continued. Oh, yes. The venue for your date has already been taken by another client on our waiting list. They just paid in full 5 minutes ago. Good afternoon. The phone fell from Serafina's hand, landing on the thick carpet of the boutique without a sound. But for Ms. Rowena and Serafina, that sound was like a bomb explosion, destroying everything. The wedding is canceled! Serafina's scream was the first thing to break the embarrassing silence in the boutique. Not a soft cry, but a sharp shriek full of rage and shame. Canceled! Everything canceled! All because of Kazaya! Ms. Rowena, whose face was already livid, staggered. She grabbed the checkout counter to avoid falling. What do you mean? She hissed. Serafina, with tears ruining her expensive makeup, shouted at her mother. They just called. Everything is canceled. Kazaya's lawyer called them. She withdrew all her money. We are ruined, Mama. Ruined. The boutique attendants and some other clients who were choosing fabrics were now looking at them with a mix of surprise and amusement. This scene was too good to miss. The designer, owner of the boutique, signaled the security guard. I'm sorry, Ms. Rowena, Serafina, she said with a cold tone. I think your business here is finished. Please change out of the clothes, Serafina, and solve your problems outside. Kicked out. They were literally kicked out of the boutique. This was the height of humiliation for Ms. Rowena, a socialite who had always felt like a queen wherever she went. With heavy steps, Serafina went into the fitting room, slamming the door. Ms. Rowena trembled with anger, shame, and panic all at once. While the drama in the boutique was just beginning, another drama was unfolding in the digital world. The Children's Hope Foundation, the organization Kazaya had donated to, had a transparency policy regarding all large donations. Exactly at 11:30 a.m., their official social media account, which had tens of thousands of followers, posted a new update. It wasn't a simple thank you. It was a beautifully designed digital poster with images of several children with cancer smiling, with large letters in the middle. A new hope has arrived, a prayer, a blessing. Below, the text read, The entire family of the Children's Hope Foundation wishes to express its immense gratitude for the extraordinary donation we received today. A total of $15,000 has been donated by a noble woman of God who dedicated this donation to the recovery of her mother. Thanks to the donor in the name of the recovery of Mama Effie. This donation will completely cover chemotherapy treatment and living expenses for 10 of our little fighters against cancer for the next 6 months. All of us here, along with the children, pray that Mama Effie is healed soon from her illness and granted total health. Amen. The post blew up immediately. Hundreds of likes and comments flooded in within minutes. Many said amen to the prayer, and of course the post appeared on the social media feed of Ms. Rowena's socialite friends. They all followed each other and also followed several accounts of large foundations to maintain their image. Simultaneously, Tremaine's family WhatsApp group, which had been silent after Kazaya's screenshot, vibrated again. Tremaine's aunt was the first to notice. She forwarded the foundation's post to the group. "My God, how noble," wrote the aunt. "Is this Kazaya's Mama Effie who was sick?" Another cousin of Tremaine commented, "Wow, $15,000, exactly the same amount that was in Kazaya's screenshot yesterday. So she really donated it." Tremaine's uncle commented, "Your daughter-in-law is amazing, Rowena. Just when her husband asks for money for a party, she chooses charity in the name of her sick mother. A devoted wife, without a doubt." Ms. Rowena's phone, which she had just turned on after leaving the boutique with a broken heart, was flooded by these notifications. She opened the WhatsApp group. Her eyes widened as she read the incoming comments. The praise for Kazaya felt like a slap of fire on her face. Then, private messages started arriving from her friends at the social club. "Rowena, I saw the foundation's post, $15,000. Hats off to your daughter-in-law. Hey, but I heard from the people at the boutique that Serafina's wedding was canceled. How is that possible? You didn't have the money, but she used it for a donation." Another message came in. "Ms. Rowena, is it true that Serafina's wedding got canceled because you didn't pay the planner? But how come your daughter-in-law donated $15,000? What's the story here?" Their ruin had become public consumption. Not only did they not get the money, not only did they lose the dream wedding, now, in the eyes of the public, they looked like a greedy family trying to squeeze their pious daughter-in-law while her mother was dying, and they had failed miserably. Ms. Rowena's image, built over years as a respected socialite, was shattered in a single afternoon. Tremaine in his office also saw the post. He was tagged by several co-workers. "Awesome, Trey. Your wife donated $15,000. What a boss move. Congratulations. Hope your mother-in-law gets well soon." Tremaine couldn't answer. He felt nauseous. He looked like a fool. The anger, shame, and panic were now reaching their peak. Ms. Rowena, Serafina, and Tremaine met in the boutique parking lot. All three faces were somber and full of hate. "This cannot stay like this," hissed Ms. Rowena. Her eyes were red with rage. "That girl has humiliated us. We have to see her. We have to make her pay for all this." "It's true," nodded Tremaine. His ego as a husband and a man was completely shattered. He no longer cared about the money. He cared about his dignity, which had been trampled. "Let's go to the hospital now. We will force her." "I'm going," yelled Serafina. "I'm going to snatch that bonnet off her head." With blind rage, the three of them got into Tremaine's car, the car whose notes Keziah paid. They drove at full speed toward the hospital. They didn't know this was their last trip in that car. They arrived at the hospital lobby like a storm, walking fast, angry, and indifferent to people's stares. They went straight to the reception desk. "We want to see Keziah." "What room is her mother in?" snapped Tremaine. The receptionist was startled. "Excuse me, sir. Patient's name?" "Effie, Mama Effie," said Ms. Rowena impatiently. The receptionist typed on the computer, then looked up. Her expression turned professional. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Sir, the patient named Mama Effie is in the ICU." "But we're going to the ICU," interrupted Tremaine, walking straight toward the elevator. "Wait, sir." Two burly hospital security guards suddenly stepped in front of them, blocking the path. "What is this?" asked Tremaine, his tone rising. The taller guard looked at them calmly, but firmly. "Excuse me, sir, ma'am. By special request of Ms. Keziah, the person responsible for the patient, we have received instructions. Mr. Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina are specifically prohibited from visiting the patient or meeting with Ms. Keziah in all areas of this hospital." The denial felt like a concrete wall that appeared suddenly in front of them. Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina stood paralyzed in the hospital lobby, which suddenly felt very crowded. The stares of some visitors and curious nurses were stabbing them. The two burly guards stood still. Their faces were professional, but they left no room for negotiation. "You can't do this." Tremaine stepped forward, trying to use the remnants of his authority. "I am her husband. Keziah is my wife. I have rights." The taller guard tilted his head slightly. "I'm sorry, sir. Your rights as a husband do not override the instructions of the patient's guardian, Ms. Keziah specifically mentioned your name, the lady's, and this young woman's," he said, pointing to them one by one. "The order is clear. Unwanted guests with potential to disturb the patient's peace." Every word felt like a slap. "Disturb the peace?" hissed Ms. Rowena, her red face containing her rage. "We are her family. She is the one causing chaos." The second guard intervened, his voice lower but threatening. "I suggest the lady and family leave the lobby now. If you cause a disturbance, we will be forced to call internal security." Ms. Rowena's dignity, which was already shattered, was trampled, kicked out of the boutique, and now kicked out of the hospital. Serafina, who had been motionless, began to sob. "Enough, Mama. Let's go. It's humiliating," she whispered, pulling on her mother's sleeve. Tremaine stared toward the ICU elevator, as if his gaze could pierce the floors and find Keziah. There was hate there, but also fear. He had just realized how powerful Keziah was, how dependent he was on the woman he had underestimated all this time. With heavy steps full of shame, the three turned around. They walked out of the air-conditioned lobby, back to the heat of the parking lot. The drive back in the car, Keziah's car, felt silent and suffocating. No one spoke. Miss Rowena looked out the window with a blank stare, her jaw clenched. Serafina sobbed hysterically in the back seat. Tremaine gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. They only had one destination: back home to Royal Oak Drive. They had to talk, strategize. They had to think of a way to persuade, threaten, or force Keziah to return everything to normal. When the car turned into their luxury residential complex, Tremaine began to feel a little calm. The house was his fortress. There he was king. But that tranquility was shattered immediately. When the car approached their house, Tremaine slammed on the brakes. There was an unfamiliar black sedan parked in front of his door, and two men in formal wear were standing in front of the wrought iron gate. One of them was sticking something big and white on his gate. "Who is that?" hissed Ms. Rowena. Her confusion turned immediately into alertness. Tremaine didn't answer. He got out of the car, followed by Ms. Rowena and Serafina. They approached. The man in the suit turned. "Excuse me, whose house is this?" asked Tremaine with an aggressive tone, trying to intimidate. The man looked at Tremaine calmly and then looked at the clipboard in his hand. "Are you Mr. Tremaine?" "Yes, that's me. What's going on?" "Good. We are from the law firm Sterling & Associates," said the man, handing a thick brown envelope to Tremaine. "This is a formal warning letter for you, Ms. Rowena and Serafina. And this," he pointed to the large paper he had just stuck on the gate, "is an official notice." Tremaine tore open the envelope roughly. His hands shook as he read the content. The letter was written in rigid legal language, but the essence was clear. The house at 12 Royal Oak Drive is the absolute property of Ms. Keziah. Mr. Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina no longer have permission to occupy said property. This property has been officially registered for sale through a real estate agent. You are given a period of 14 days from the date of this letter to vacate the house and return all keys. Any attempt to damage the property or refusal to vacate will be prosecuted criminally. Tremaine read the last sentence over and over. Vacate the house. 14 days. "Sir, this was your house?" "Impossible! This is my house!" shouted Tremaine, crumpling the letter. "I am her husband!" "I'm sorry, sir," said the man, unmoved. "The property deed is in Ms. Keziah's name, obtained prior to marriage. It is her exclusive property. We are only doing our duty." Beside him, Ms. Rowena was reading the large letters on the paper stuck to the gate. The text was printed in bold and capitals. "This property is for sale under legal supervision. No trespassing." With Mr. Sterling's phone number. "No, it can't be." Ms. Rowena staggered. She grabbed the pillar of the gate. Neighbors walking in the evening began to look. Some even stopped and whispered. "Keziah!" screamed Ms. Rowena, losing control. "Keziah is crazy. She's kicking us out." Tremaine was still paralyzed by the warning letter. His brain couldn't process the reality. He had just lost his home. That was when a loud diesel engine noise was heard approaching from the end of the street. A large yellow tow truck slowed down and stopped right behind Tremaine's car. Behind it, two motorcycles ridden by men in leather jackets stopped. Repo men. A hard-faced man got out of the tow truck. He walked toward Tremaine. "Excuse me, is this the silver SUV with license plate number?" Tremaine, still confused, just nodded. The man showed a repossession order. "We are from the leasing company. The owner has unilaterally stopped the payment of notes in the name of Ms. Keziah for this unit. According to the contract, we have been ordered to seize this unit. Please hand over the keys immediately, sir." Tremaine looked at the letter, then his car, and then at the hard-faced man. He had just realized. Of course, this car, the car he always took pride in showing off to his friends, the car he used to take his mother shopping, wasn't his either. It was Keziah's. "Wait!" said Tremaine in a panic. "This is a misunderstanding. I will pay." "Sorry, sir. The order is to seize the unit, not collect. You have the keys." The man was impatient. "This is my car! Get lost!" shouted Tremaine. The man signaled his two friends on the motorcycles. They got off, burly. The atmosphere became tense. "Are you going to hand them over the easy way, or will we take them by force?" said the repo man with a flat tone. Serafina screamed in fear. Ms. Rowena stood mute, her face pale as a corpse. Tremaine trembled. He looked left at the man from the law firm. He looked right at the repo men. In front of him, on the gate of his house, was a for sale sign. They were cornered. They had totally lost. With trembling hands, Tremaine rummaged in his pocket. He threw the car keys on the ground. "Take them!" he hissed. His voice broke from rage and shame. The repo man picked up the keys. "Thank you for your cooperation." He got in the car, started it, and drove it up onto the tow truck. The man from the law firm nodded. "Our work is done. Good afternoon." He got into his car and left. The tow truck started its engine and drove away slowly, taking Tremaine's car. Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina now stood on the side of the street in front of the house that was no longer theirs, without a car, without money, and worst of all, with dozens of pairs of eyes from the neighbors watching their afternoon drama. They lost everything in less than 3 hours. The sun began to set, projecting a beautiful golden-orange color in the sky. But for Tremaine, Miss Rowena, and Serafina, that light felt like mockery. They were still standing on the sidewalk in front of the house that now felt foreign. The gate was locked, and the for sale sign seemed to laugh at them. Some neighbors who previously only whispered now dared to come out pretending to water plants or clean their cars when clearly they were watching them. "Get inside," hissed Tremaine. He pushed the gate, but it was locked. Of course. He remembered Keziah must have told Mr. Sterling to change the lock or activate the digital lock that only Keziah could access. "So what do we do?" yelled Serafina, hysterical. "We're going to sleep on the street? Tremaine, do something! You are her husband!" "Shut up!" snapped Tremaine, venting his frustration. "Do you think it's easy?" Ms. Rowena, who had been mute until now, began to move. Her pale face was now full of a cold rage. "We can't stay here. It's humiliating," she said in a low voice. "Let's go." "Go where?" asked Tremaine, confused. "We have no car. We have no money." "Call," said Ms. Rowena. "Call relatives. Call Aunt Fatima. Call your uncle. Ask them to pick us up." Tremaine hesitated. Since he had successfully married Keziah, his family had kept their distance from the other relatives. Ms. Rowena always felt superior, but now he had no choice. He took out his phone, opened contacts, called his uncle. The call was answered. "Hello, Tremaine." "Hello, Uncle. Sorry to bother you. Could you please—" "Oh, yes, Trey. I was about to send you a message," interrupted the uncle. "I saw the Foundation's post. That is wild. Your wife Keziah is amazing. $15,000. She donated in her mother's name, and I heard in the group they needed money for Serafina's wedding. Wow, Keziah is truly a devoted wife, prioritizes her mother in charity. You are very lucky. Cheers." Tremaine stood silent. The news had spread faster than fire. His uncle was congratulating him, but it felt like a punch. "Trey? Hello? Why are you quiet?" "Yes, Uncle. Look, we are having a little problem on the road. Could you please—" "Oh, sorry, Trey. I'm out of town on business. Another time. Send my regards to Keziah. Tell her I am very proud of her." Click. The call cut off. Tremaine tried calling Aunt Fatima. The response was the same. "Wow, Tremaine, I'm very busy. I'm at the social club. You and Keziah, right? Your wife is the topic of conversation for everyone. Beautiful, rich, and devout. Take good care of her. Gotta go." No one wanted to help. The news of the $15,000 donation had turned Keziah into an angel in the eyes of the extended family and indirectly turned them, Tremaine, Ms. Rowena, and Serafina, into the greedy antagonists. Who would want to help parasites who had just been humiliated by their host? Serafina, seeing the despair on her brother's face, had another idea. Trayvon, her fiancé. Of course, Trayvon would help her. He was her prince. With trembling hands, Serafina called Trayvon. "Hello, baby? Where are you? Help me," she said, crying. "I've been kicked out of the house by my sister-in-law, Keziah. The wedding, I know." Trayvon's voice on the other end sounded cold, very cold. "I already heard everything, Serafina. My mother just received a call from the venue. They are charging us a cancellation penalty of $5,000 because we signed the contract as second responsible parties." Serafina froze. "What? But that's my sister-in-law Keziah's business." "Your sister-in-law Keziah has washed her hands of it. Her lawyer said she isn't responsible for your debts, and now my family's honor is at stake. My mother told me to find you. Send me your location right now." It wasn't the tone of affection Serafina expected. It was a tone full of anger. But Serafina, in her panic, still had hope. "Yes, baby, sending it fast." The three waited at the complex's empty security booth. 30 minutes later, a luxury sedan pulled up. It wasn't Trayvon alone. Trayvon got out with his mother, a stiff-looking woman wearing flashy jewelry. "Serafina," said Trayvon's mother bluntly, "I want to talk." They stood on the sidewalk. Trayvon's mother looked at Ms. Rowena with disdain. "So this is you, Ms. Rowena. The family that calls themselves respectable turns out to live off their daughter-in-law." "Watch your mouth," hissed Ms. Rowena, though her voice was weak. "I don't have to watch my mouth," snapped Trayvon's mother. "You have humiliated my family. You ordered a lavish wedding without having money, and now they are chasing us for a cancellation penalty of $5,000. Serafina looked at Trayvon pleadingly. "Trayvon, please, baby." Trayvon looked away. He didn't dare look at Serafina. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said quietly. "My mother is right. I can't marry a woman from a family of scammers." "Scammers!" shrieked Serafina. "Yes, scammers," replied Trayvon's mother. "You claim to be rich, but you are broke. This wedding is canceled. And listen well, we aren't going to pay your debts. We will sue you legally for those $5,000. Here is the invoice. Enjoy it." She threw a paper with the invoice from the venue at Serafina's chest. Trayvon and his mother got into the car and left, leaving Serafina slumped on the sidewalk holding the debt invoice. Tremaine and Ms. Rowena could only watch. They had hit rock bottom. Evicted, no car, no money, no relatives willing to help, and now chased by a debt of $5,000. That night, they used the little cash left in Tremaine's wallet, Keziah's $50, which he still kept plus some small bills, to take a ride share to the most humiliating place Tremaine could imagine. A small rental house in a narrow alley on the outskirts of the city, a place he had rented when he was a broke student before meeting Keziah. The place was cramped, stuffy, and smelled of sewage. There was only one room, a dirty bathroom, and a tiny kitchen. This was their new reality. The next morning, Tremaine, with the remnants of his dignity, tried to go to his office. He took a bus. He arrived at the lobby of his fancy office. When he swiped his access card, the turnstile didn't move. Red light, access denied. He called HR. "Mr. Tremaine? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, sir. Due to company restructuring and a performance review, we have been forced to terminate you, effective as of today. The termination letter will be sent to your email." Restructuring. Tremaine knew it was a lie. This company was a partner of Keziah's family business. A single call from Keziah or her lawyer was enough to destroy him. He returned to the rental house in the alley on foot in the middle of the day. Ms. Rowena and Serafina were sitting on the floor staring into space. "How was it?" asked Ms. Rowena. Tremaine just shook his head and threw himself on the thin mattress. Finished. Ms. Rowena didn't give up. She didn't want to live like this. There was still one hope. Her jewelry. all the gold, diamonds, and bracelets she had collected. She opened her bag, taking them all out. "We still have this. It can be sold," she said. She left the alley looking for the nearest pawn shop. She entered with the remains of her arrogance. "Sir, I want to pawn this," she said, placing a large diamond necklace on the counter. The shop owner took it, examined it, then scraped it on a testing stone, dropping a chemical liquid. Then he laughed softly. "Why are you laughing?" asked Miss Rowena, offended. The man looked at her with amusement. "Ma'am, this is fake. Good quality imitation, but fake. Glass? Zirconia, not diamond." "Fake?" repeated Miss Rowena, incredulous. The man took her gold bracelet. "This, too. Only the plating is gold. Inside is brass." He checked all of Miss Rowena's jewelry. "Nothing is real, ma'am. Everything is fake." Miss Rowena stood mute. She remembered that most of this jewelry had been bought by Tremaine, bought with Keziah's money. Tremaine or Keziah? They had been giving her fake things all this time. All her pride, a falsehood. The shop owner looked at her with pity mixed with amusement. "If you sell it by weight at the flea market, the most you get is $50, ma'am." Miss Rowena felt her legs weaken. She was being mocked by the owner of a pawn shop in a narrow alley. This was karma. This was the end of everything. A week had passed since the storm. A week since Keziah froze accounts, stopped transfers, and sent the donation receipt that shook her husband's family. Inside the ICU room, time ran differently. Keziah no longer thought about them. Her phone was now clean. She had changed her number, giving it only to Mr. Sterling and a few close relatives of her mother. Her concentration was 100% focused on the woman lying in the hospital bed. Every morning she read the book of Psalms next to her mother's ear. Every afternoon she told her good things, as if her mother could hear. She told her about the $15,000 donation. "Mama," she whispered one afternoon, while wiping her mother's arm with a warm towel, "Keziah donated the money in your name to the Children's Cancer Foundation, just like you wanted. There are 10 children who can get treatment thanks to you. Everyone is praying for you. They say, 'Get well soon, Mama Effie. You have to wake up. You have to hear their prayers.'" She said it over and over, every day like a mantra. She was planting hope not only for her mother but also for herself. And that morning, a miracle happened. While Keziah was reading her prayers, she felt the grip of her hand being reciprocated. Weak, but perceptible. Keziah stopped reading, her eyes fixed on her mother's fingers moving slowly. Then Mama Effie's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, very slowly, those eyes opened, her gaze blurry, searching to focus. "Mama," Keziah's voice trembled. Mama Effie's eyes finally settled on her daughter's face. She couldn't speak due to the breathing tube, but a tear slid from the corner of her eye. Keziah wept, not tears of pain like last week, but tears of happiness that burst out. She immediately pressed the nurse call button. The doctor on duty and several nurses rushed in. They checked the monitors, pupils, and the mother's response. The chief doctor treating Mama Effie arrived shortly after. After an intensive exam, he left the room and met Keziah with a smile of relief. "This is a miracle, Ms. Keziah," said the doctor. "Man, honestly, we were pessimistic, but somehow about 5 days ago, her vitals improved drastically. Her brain response increased. Her body decided to fight, and today she has woken up. Ms. Effie's fighting spirit is extraordinary." Keziah smiled behind the veil of her tears. 5 days ago, just after telling her about the donation. "It's because of the prayers, doctor. The children's prayers," whispered Keziah. Mama Effie's recovery was faster than expected. In a few days, they removed the breathing tube. She was transferred to a private room. Keziah took care of her diligently, fed her porridge, helped her learn to speak again, and told her everything, except Tremaine's betrayal. She only said, "Mama, Keziah is processing a separation with Tremaine. It just doesn't work anymore. Pray for Keziah, please." Mama Effie, still weak but with a sharp gaze, just nodded and stroked her daughter's head. She understood more than Keziah thought. While caring for her mother, Keziah took care of her freedom. Mr. Sterling came to the hospital with a thick folder. "Everything is in order, Ms. Keziah," he said in the lobby. "The house already has the highest offer, well above market price. They are in a panic, ma'am. I heard from an informant. They are now living in a rental house in an alley on the outskirts of town. Tremaine was fired, and lastly, they are being sued by his ex-fiancée's family for a venue cancellation penalty of $5,000. Keziah listened to everything calmly. There was no pity nor excessive satisfaction, just a feeling of relief, as if a heavy burden had finally been released. "And this," Mr. Sterling offered her a paper and a pen, "the divorce petition. I have already included the demands: spousal abandonment, especially during the mother's critical illness, and moral and material damages. Sign here." Keziah took the pen. She remembered her wedding day. She remembered her promise to be an obedient wife. She thought obedience meant swallowing all bitterness. She was wrong. She took a deep breath and then stamped her signature firmly, without the slightest doubt. It wasn't a signature on a divorce document. It was a signature on her Declaration of Independence. 2 weeks later, Mama Effie was discharged. She still needed to use a wheelchair temporarily, but her spirit had returned. Keziah pushed her mother's wheelchair down the hospital hallway, which now felt friendly. They laughed, planning what they would cook when they got home. Keziah's new house, smaller but cozy, that Mr. Sterling had prepared. As they approached the lobby, Keziah's steps stopped. A man was there blocking their path. The man was dirty, his hair long and unkempt. His face was dull, with messy stubble. His clothes, which were once expensive, now looked worn and loose on his thin body. It was Tremaine. He looked at Keziah with red, desperate eyes. "Keziah!" His voice was rough. Mama Effie in the wheelchair grabbed her daughter's arm. She recognized the man who never showed up when she was dying. Tremaine didn't care about the people staring in the lobby. He didn't care about the security guards approaching. He advanced a few steps and then knelt. He dropped to the freshly mopped floor, right at Keziah's feet. "Keziah, forgive me," he shouted. His voice broke into a cry. "I was wrong. I was blind. I beg you, Kez. Forgive me." People stopped. They watched. "I've lost everything, Kez," he sobbed, trying to reach the hem of Keziah's dress. "I got fired. The house was foreclosed. The car seized. We live in a smelly place. My mother and Serafina are suffering. I am suffering. I beg you, Keziah, withdraw the divorce petition. Let's start over. I promise to be a good husband. I will wash your feet every day. I beg you, Keziah." Keziah looked at the man crying at her feet, the man she once loved, the man she served, the man she gave everything to. Now he looked so small, so despicable. There was no anger in Keziah's heart, nor hate, just a void. It felt like she was looking at a stranger. "Keziah, honey, please!" Tremaine looked up at her full of hope. Keziah looked directly into Tremaine's eyes. She pulled her foot back slowly, her face calm, hidden beneath her neat head wrap. Then she spoke. Her voice was low, but clear and cold. It was heard clearly in the silent lobby. "Excuse me." Tremaine's face lit up immediately. He thought it was forgiveness. "Yes, Kez? Do you forgive me? Do you accept me back?" Keziah shook her head slowly. "No." She leaned in a little, looking at her technically husband for the last time. "Excuse me, who are you?" Tremaine froze. Those words, sharper than a knife, colder than ice, hit him full force. Keziah didn't wait for an answer. She straightened up. "Let's go, Mama," she told her mother with a soft voice. "Our driver is waiting." She pushed her mother's wheelchair, turning to pass by Tremaine's motionless body, still kneeling on the floor. She walked straight toward the automatic exit door, toward the sunlight. She didn't look back even once, leaving Tremaine alone in the lobby, being a spectacle, drowning in his own humiliation. 6 months later, Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The atmosphere is busy and crowded. Among the crowd, Keziah came out of the international arrivals gate, pushing her mother sitting in a wheelchair. Mama Effie didn't need it anymore, but the wheelchair was provided by the airline for her comfort. Mama Effie looked healthy, fresh, and very happy. Her face was radiant, her cheeks had regained volume. She held a bouquet of tulips she had bought in Amsterdam. Keziah, for her part, looked like a new person. Her head wrap was styled in a modern and elegant way. She wore an expensive cream-colored pantsuit. Her face glowed. Her smile expanded as she talked to her mother. How wonderful! The trip to Vienna and Istanbul was incredible, right, Mama? Said Keziah while pushing her luggage cart. Incredible, daughter, replied Mama Effie, laughing softly. Much more beautiful than just Ibiza, right? She looked at her daughter teasingly. Both laughed. That was the vacation Ms. Rowena had asked for. Keziah made it happen, but for her mother in a much more luxurious way. After this, Mama goes straight home to rest. Keziah has to go to the office for a moment. There is a shareholders' meeting, said Keziah. Since her divorce was finalized, she had recovered everything. Tremaine didn't receive a single dollar. Keziah took back the company her father left, which her mother had been managing remotely. With her financial intelligence and her new firmness, she turned the company situation around in 6 months. Now she was the respected CEO. On the other side of town, in a small rental house in a narrow and stifling alley, the door with peeling paint opened and a scream was heard. You've been playing on the phone all morning, useless. Help me sew this. The customer's orders are waiting. It was Ms. Rowena's voice. She looked 10 years older. Her hair, which used to be always styled, was now thin and tied up any old way. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by piles of fabric scraps, busy in front of an old sewing machine. Now she was a seamstress doing alterations for neighbors. They paid her $5 apiece. Serafina, who looked equally disheveled, threw her phone on the mattress. What is it, Mama? I'm trying to do a live stream to sell stuff, but nobody is watching me, she yelled, frustrated. All this is your fault, Mama, for your greed. If you had been nice to Keziah, our life wouldn't be like this. How dare you blame me? Ms. Rowena stood up, her eyes bloodshot. It's all your fault, spoiled girl, asking for a lavish wedding. And because of your brother, that coward Tremaine. He hasn't sent money in a month. Who knows where he is now? He doesn't send money because he doesn't have any, shrieked Serafina. Do you think a day laborer earns much? Enough to feed himself, and that's it. Bah, you are all the same, useless children. Ms. Rowena threw a deflated feather pillow at Serafina. Both got involved in a loud fight, pulling hair and cursing each other, fighting over whose turn it was to eat the last packet of instant noodles in their dirty kitchen. They were trapped in a cycle of poverty and mutual blame. Elsewhere, at a muddy loading dock smelling of fish, the sun had just risen, but a man was already soaked in sweat. He was thin, his skin sunburnt, his t-shirt torn at the shoulders sticking to his back, which now showed his bones. It was Tremaine. He was struggling to push a hand truck full of rice sacks weighing hundreds of pounds. Hey, Tremaine, faster, don't stand there staring, shouted a foreman from the other side. Tremaine, out of breath, nodded reluctantly. He pushed the hand truck with the rest of his strength, taking it to the edge of the road where a truck would pick it up. While waiting for the truck, he stopped for a moment. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with his dirty sleeve. His tired eyes looked across the street. There, on top of a building, a giant video screen was broadcasting a morning awards show live. The award and recognition for Young Philanthropist of the Year goes to... The camera focused on a woman walking up to the stage, an elegant woman with a cream-colored head wrap, smiling radiantly, accepting a crystal trophy. It was Keziah. Below the screen read, Keziah, daughter of John, honored for her dedication to social programs through the Children's Hope Foundation. Tremaine froze. His heart felt squeezed. The hand truck in front of him felt heavier. He looked at Keziah's face on the giant screen, the face he had wasted, a face that was now so bright, so happy, and so far out of his reach. He was a dirty day laborer, and that woman was a star. Just at that moment, a gleaming metallic black luxury car stopped at the traffic light right next to Tremaine. The car windows were tinted dark. Tremaine couldn't see inside. Inside the car, Keziah had just hung up the phone with her mother. Yes, Mama. Keziah is already on the way to the office. Rest, please. She put down the phone and looked out the window. She looked toward the loading dock, toward the crowd, toward the laborers working. She didn't see Tremaine specifically. She just saw an everyday scene. Then she smiled softly, a smile of satisfaction, not from seeing anyone suffering, but because she was grateful for her life. Now she had weathered the storm and found her rainbow. The light turned green. The luxury car glided smoothly over the asphalt, turning sharply to move away from the loading dock, taking her toward the skyscrapers where her office was. On the sidewalk, Tremaine remained motionless, staring at the video screen. The horn of the truck behind him woke him up. "Hey, move it! You're blocking the way!" Tremaine startled. He lowered his head deeply, hiding his face full of sweat and tears of regret. He grabbed the handle of his hand truck again, and with the little strength he had left, pushed his karma under the morning sun. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.